I used to think my life was perfect. At least that's what it looked like from the outside. People would glance at our 3-story home in Charleston with its marble floors and glittering chandelier in the foyer, and they'd smile at me as if I was living every woman's dream. And I let them believe it. I smiled back, kept my hair neat, wore the dresses my husband bought for me, and played the part of the lucky wife. What they didn't see was that inside that palace, my daughters and I lived like prisoners. My name is Clara Jensen. I'm 31, and this is the story of how the man who once promised to love me became my worst nightmare, and how I found the strength to take back everything he tried to steal from me. It started small, like it always does. At first, Nathan would joke about how I didn't deserve all the luxuries he worked for. He'd say it with a smile, hand me a glass of wine, and I'd laugh it off. I thought it was just his sense of humor. But the jokes grew sharper, the smiles faded, and one day I realized I was living in a house full of food that I couldn't touch. He kept the kitchen locked. Yes, locked like it was some vault, while my twin girls, Emma and Lily, cried themselves to sleep on empty stomachs. I still see their little faces in my dreams. Big brown eyes, cheeks thinning more every day, whispering, "Mommy, can we please have something to eat?" One night, Nathan walked in with a bag from some fancy steakhouse downtown. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, warm and rich, making my daughters sit up in excitement. I'll never forget the way their eyes lit up, hopeful, innocent. He didn't say a word as he unpacked it, sat down at the dining table, and tore into the chicken with his bare hands. Emma whispered, "Daddy, can we have some?" He glanced at her, smirked, and said, "When you make your own money, you can buy your own dinner." Then he tossed the bones onto a plate and slid it across the table like he was doing us a favor. "There. Don't say I never gave you anything." I forced a smile through tears, helping my daughters crack the bones for whatever scraps we could find. My stomach ached with hunger, but their pain hurt me more. And this became normal. He'd bring home fresh bread, eat every slice, and push crumbs toward us, laughing when the girls tried to gather them up with tiny hands. I wasn't allowed to touch the fridge without his permission. He called me useless, told me I was lucky he let me live in his house. My parents were gone. I had no job, no one to run to. He made sure I knew that every single day. It wasn't just the hunger, it was the humiliation. I started sneaking out to our elderly neighbor's back porch to ask for a little milk or bread for the girls. Mrs. Anderson thought we were thriving, living the dream. If only she knew I was crying in her driveway because I didn't have a single dollar to feed my children. Some nights I boiled plain water and told Emma and Lily it was soup, just so they could sip something warm and feel full enough to fall asleep. Nathan strutted around town like a king. He wore tailored suits, drove a brand new sports car, and spent nights at clubs buying champagne for strangers, while his daughters were starving at home. He loved that people envied him. If anyone complimented me, he'd smirk and say, "She should thank me. I made her." I stayed quiet, not because I was weak, but because survival often means silence. Every night after tucking my girls into bed, I'd kneel by their side, running my fingers over their ribs that were too visible, whispering, "I'm so sorry. Mommy will find a way." I didn't believe myself, but I had to say it. Then one afternoon, everything changed with a single phone call. I remember sitting in the living room staring at a blank TV screen because turning it on felt like a waste of energy. Emma and Lily were curled up on the couch beside me, so tired from hunger they fell asleep mid-sentence. The phone rang. I picked it up expecting Nathan's bark demanding I clean something. Instead, a calm woman introduced herself as a lawyer. She said, "Mrs. Jensen, I'm calling about your grandmother's estate." I froze. My grandmother? We hadn't spoken in years, not since I married Nathan. The lawyer's voice was steady. "She passed recently. In her will, she left everything to you." My throat tightened. Everything, I whispered. "Yes, ma'am." "Property, accounts, investments. Your total inheritance is estimated at over $270 million. I dropped the phone. Tears rolled down my face as I looked at my sleeping daughters. I'd begged for crumbs for years, and now I was worth more than Nathan could even imagine. But I didn't scream. I didn't dance. I swallowed my joy and told the lawyer to send everything discreetly. Nathan couldn't know. Not yet. That night he came home smelling of perfume and whiskey, tossed his jacket on the couch, and sneered, "What's for dinner?" even though he'd locked the kitchen that morning. I stayed quiet and he muttered, "Worthless." But something had shifted. Inside I wasn't broken anymore. I had a plan. For weeks I worked with the lawyers in secret, transferring assets into my name, securing every penny where Nathan couldn't touch it. I pretended to be the same meek, obedient wife. I smiled when he insulted me, nodded when he mocked me. Every insult was a brick I stacked on the wall between us. Emma noticed I'd started humming again while folding their clothes. One morning Lily whispered, "Mommy, why do you look happy?" I kissed her forehead and said softly, "Because one day soon, sweetheart, everything will be different." And then that day came. I filed for divorce in silence, my hands steady as I signed the papers. The lawyers I'd hired through my grandmother's estate handled everything with precision. I walked into the courthouse a prisoner. I walked out free. When the papers were served to Nathan, he laughed loud, cruel laughter. "You divorce me. You'll regret this. You think you're taking my money. You won't get a dime." He grabbed a pen and signed so fast he nearly ripped the page. "Good riddance," he spat. "You and your brats can starve somewhere else." I smiled inside. "Oh, Nathan, you have no idea." Within days, I packed the girls' few belongings and led them out of that mansion. A sleek black car waited to take us to our new home. Emma clutched my hand wide-eyed. "Mommy, where are we going?" "Somewhere better," I whispered. And it was. We pulled up to an estate so beautiful it took my breath away. Manicured gardens, fountains sparkling in the sunlight, a mansion that made Nathan's house look like a shack. Staff greeted us warmly, offering hugs and smiles. Inside, a dining table overflowed with food, fresh bread, roasted meats, bowls of fruit. My daughters ran to the table, laughing like I hadn't heard them laugh in years. Emma picked up a piece of chicken and whispered, "Mommy, we can eat this." "Really?" Tears blurred my vision as I nodded. "Yes, baby. Eat as much as you want." That night, I tucked them into soft beds covered in silk sheets. "Mommy, this feels like a dream," Lily murmured, eyes heavy with happiness. I kissed her forehead. "It's not a dream, honey. This is our life now." For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Nathan must have thought he'd won, thought he'd gotten rid of the burden he liked to mock. But the whispers started. People saw me in the city dressed elegantly, arriving in chauffeured cars. They heard about the estate, the wealth, the woman he used to belittle, now commanding a life he couldn't even picture. He didn't believe it at first. Then one day, fate decided he'd see it himself. I took Emma and Lily shopping at a high-end boutique, the very one Nathan once banned me from entering because, in his words, "Women like you don't belong here." But this time, I wasn't just allowed in. I owned the room. Staff hurried to assist us, offering sparkling water, calling me Mrs. Jensen with respect. The girls tried on dresses, their laughter filling the store. And then Nathan walked in. His smirk faltered when he saw us. He froze, eyes darting from the chauffeur outside to the designer bags at my feet. He approached slowly, his arrogance melting into confusion. "Clara, what is all this?" How I smiled calmly, meeting his gaze. "You don't need to know how. Just know your daughters will never beg for food again." He swallowed hard, glancing around at the staff, treating me like royalty. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not because he was losing me, because he realized he'd already lost. The calls started soon after. Then came the letters, then him standing at the gates of my estate, rumpled suit voice breaking. "Clara, I made mistakes. Please, for the kids, if not for me." I held Emma and Lily's hands as I looked him in the eye through the iron gates. "You had everything. Love, a family, a wife who would have stood by you through anything. And you starved us. Now live with that." The guards closed the gate. Emma whispered, "Mommy, he can't hurt us anymore, right?" I squeezed her hand. Never again. Life moved forward. My daughters thrived. I invested wisely, building a future where they'd never feel powerless again. Nathan's empire crumbled as his reckless spending caught up to him. He faded into whispers of regret. I didn't need revenge. Watching him drown in his own choices was enough. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a survivor, a mother who found strength in the darkest days, a woman who rose higher than anyone believed she could. If there's anything I've learned, it's that money doesn't define love, and silence only feeds cruelty. Walking away was the best decision I ever made. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in my shoes, would you forgive a man like Nathan? Would you let him back into your life for the sake of family, or close the gates forever like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved, you hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that prove strength can rise from the deepest pain.